G'day, and welcome to another Almost Vanilla. This is where I take a look at mods that add to Space Engineers rather than changing it, at least in my opinion. This time we're going to take a look at some mods that add to what you can do with your very large ships and very large stations, particularly those ones where you're not sure what you want to do with some extra rooms. With vanilla blocks, you can create sort of stand-ins for bunk rooms using passageways on their sides as beds. You can create some interesting hallways by doing different combinations of interior walls, vertical windows, glass windows, conveyor tubes, oxygen tanks, etc, etc. You can also create interesting terminal rooms using the programmable blocks, or using ground down states of different blocks, or semi-built states. And you can create jails, if you feel that's something you want to do, where you can use the catwalk blocks ground down to their build state and use them as bars. But what if we want to make a kitchen? What if we want to make a recreation room? Heck, what if we want our beds to really look like beds? Well, that's where mods come in, and to my mind, Ixter's decoration pack, his kitchen pack and his treadmill are amongst the most useful and some of the most matching to the Space Engineers aesthetic that I've come across. That's not to say they're the only ones. There are others out there, and if you prefer them, go for it. I'm just showing you what I think matches best with Space Engineers and showing off a mod that I absolutely loved and I have used for ages. First up, we'll take a look at these ferns. They're a really cool little addition that adds some greenery, but they're a bit special. They have a very useful build state. As you grind them down, you can see that the fern shrinks. It has 3 different growth stages. That means you can place 2 side by side and they won't look identical, which is very handy, as you really don't want every single plant to look like it's a plastic plant that's been made in a factory that's identical to every single other one. If you've got a planetary base and you want to have big nasty bars showing that there's dangerous areas, if you want to create a reactor room with high voltage signs or charging areas, etc., you can do that with these fence posts. You can also create a gate. I quite like this gate visually, but there is one downside. The interaction with the gate is a bit awkward since you have to click on the fence post, or when it's closed you have to click on the bit where the 2 gates meet. And sadly, even though it looks like it's a double wide gate, collision wise it functions as a single door. So a single block wide is all that it gives you. You can see the trouble my character's having trying to get through this space. And if I go to third person, you can see I'm going nowhere. I'm stuck up against an invisible barrier. There's also a weird sound problem that happens with the gate opening and closing, but graphically these do look pretty cool, and if you're only walking around, it probably doesn't matter that the collisions are the way they are. We're pretty limited with what we can use in terms of fences with the vanilla set. You've got the catwalks and you've got the half walls. Ixter's got you covered here too. The pack actually has these low fences, which are colorable, where the posts change color, and have a few different shapes. This is one style of corner, and this is the other style, with the curve on it. Then you've got these couches, which you can put together into sort of waiting rooms or living rooms or whatever you want them to be. Let's have a look at some of the examples of things you can actually do with these blocks. We can make a whole variety of different bunk rooms. This pack has bunk beds which have colorable sheets. You can actually even lie in the bed. And if we jump into Spectator, you can see that your character actually lies down on the bed, which is a nice little touch. The people bunking in this room, well, they also need somewhere to store their clothes, so you've got these little lockers, which are colorable, have a seat attached, and match the style of the rest of the blocks pretty nicely. If you want something that's a bit more upmarket, you've got single beds and you've got these little side tables, which again, mirrorable, so that they can be closer to one side of the block or the other. All of these things are colorable. You can see that the drawers are different colors depending on how I've set them. Then if you want to go really upmarket, you can do something like this, where you've got a double bed, you've got a couple of side tables each side, you've got a couch, and you've got your own little ensuite with a sink, shower, and toilet. We've seen where our engineers are going to sleep, but where are they going to have some fun? Let's take a look at a little recreation room, or the equipment we can use to make one. You've got ping pong tables, you've got pool tables, and you've even got some arcade game cabinets, with some examples of some of the most classic games ever. If you look closely at the Pac-Man game cabinet, you might notice something a little odd. While the other cabinets all have dark screens, it's gone yellow. Unfortunately, the texture for the screen isn't dark enough, so if you don't use a dark enough color, it's going to color the screen. As long as you take notice of this when you're placing it, you won't have any problems. But you can see that yellow, white, they're going to have a problem. Even if you go and choose like a mid-range blue, that's also going to have a problem. The Space Invaders one is set to the same shade of blue, so its texture seems to be working fine, and it's the same with the Mortal Kombat 2 machine. They both work okay regardless of color. Just a little thing to keep in mind if you're using these cabinets. Some of this has probably sounded a bit negative, but I actually really like these game cabinets. I think they're a really neat little addition, and something that I didn't expect when I first ever used this mod. As long as you use the right colors, they will look awesome. Sadly though, I don't think the game would allow them to be playable. The next room I want to look at is a gym. We've got the lockers, we've got weight sets, we've got treadmills, we've got showers. We saw the shower in the little ensuite, and there is a button you can interact with. Now, sadly, with the way that Space Engineer is currently handling glass, we can't tell that that button's doing anything. So if we hop out here, where we will actually get a reflection of the starry background, you'll be able to get an appreciation of where the glass is. So if we push this button, those doors actually open, we can step inside, and we can close them. We're now trapped in this shower room. We can open them up again, and hop out. Once we head back inside though, with no skybox to reflect or no distant objects to reflect, the glass becomes completely transparent and you can't tell if the doors are opened or closed. These weights benches, much like some people who spend a lot of time at the gym, are just for show. You can't interact with them, but they do have a few different styles, a few different appearances so that you can vary what your gym looks like. They do have a different build state, but each different type has the same basic build state. So you can still add yet another variance to your gym. I personally love this next mod. Ikestar has a quite amusing video that goes along with it, which I'll link in a card above if you want to check it out. You can now see this is actually an interactable mod. The treadmill you can jump on, your little engineer will run along, and he'll actually generate a tiny amount of power while he's doing it. The next thing to look at is the ceiling in this corridor. You can see these pipes and you can see these lights. These pipes actually work as conveyors. If we look behind this piece on the corner here, you can see there's a conveyor junction. If you attach, where is it? One of these to that conveyor junction, you can then convert it into this piping system. And as long as it then joins up to another conveyor junction with one of these boxes, you will be able to transport all of your normal goods through that conveyor system, which is a very cool way of creating a bit more interest in your conveyor systems and in the way that the pipes are around the place. You can even create dummy bits of pipes like this bit here, just for a bit more style. The coloring only works on one branch. It doesn't work on both of the pipes in the pair, which means you'll always have one of the pipes grey. So try to keep that in mind when you're using these in your design. make sure that grey is going to work for you. The other thing you can see on the roof are these hanging lights. Currently, this hallway is lit only by these corner lights. And that's to get a bit more of a uniformity to the light, because these hanging lights, they're actually spotlights. If we flick this switch, we'll change from one lighting to the other. And you can see now that these behave just like spotlights. They've got that cone of haziness attached to them. And that can create a bit of mood in a space, which is kind of cool. But they have all of the same downsides of spotlights. Those cone effects flick in and out, and if you have enough of these, your lighting will go all weird. But if you use them sparingly, you can actually create some really cool mood-lit rooms, and that might make it worth it to put up with having the grill effects that they put out as well. I've left the most important room in the house to last, and that of course is the kitchen. When this mod first came out, I was so excited. Some of the older kitchen mods had kind of gotten a bit deprecated and didn't really fit the style anymore, but these ones work. They work perfectly with Space Engineers, at least I think they do. Aesthetically anyway. He's even included a cheeky little touch with Keen Software House tagging everything. He's included mirrored versions of all of the kitchen blocks, and even 2 versions of this sink. One version of the sink has no coffee maker, and the other one has a coffee maker. So you can actually make some fairly interesting designs by using the varied forms of each of these, and you can make your base feel like it's a place where people would live, would exist. These decorative blocks add so much potential for variety to your designs, so much ability to make the space feel different, feel like a home. And with the amount of hours that I have spent in some of my bases, I really, really like playing around with this sort of stuff. These blocks all come in 4 mods. There's the 2 decoration packs, there's the kitchen pack, and then the treadmill comes as its own individual block. There'll be links in the description so that you can find these mods. The top link in the description will always be the link to a collection which has all of the almost vanilla mods, as well as a few that I haven't yet featured in videos, but which I already think are pretty awesome. Let's take a look at our build menu, because sometimes these can get pretty cluttered. Nicely, Ixter has actually organized these in the G menu, so his decoration mods are all nicely arranged in their own sub-menu. The kitchen is the same. The treadmill doesn't get its own menu, but that's probably okay. If you're wanting to design a space that feels like it's lived in, I would strongly recommend these mods. If you've got some other packs that you like to use for decorations to help you create spaces that feel like they're lived in, that feel like people exist in them, let me know in the comments so that other people can find them too and compare for themselves. As always, there's plenty more to come, so I'll see you then.